and the complimentary station on the FM dial 96.1 KERN. Jeff, good afternoon. Nice to have you here. The Renegades welcome and host in Moorpark, the Raiders of Moorpark. We'll get to last year's game in a second because last year's game at Moorpark was something to behold. I want to talk about that in a minute. Jeff, first of all, welcome. Let's do what we always do when we start off our pregame show here. Let's go back a week. We were right here. We were right in this stadium, and doggone it, again, we came in 0-5 thinking, all right, this is going to be the game we do it. We exercised all of the statistical demons out of the pregame show, but we had a tough one again last week.
Well, you know, it's to the point now where if you're Bakersfield College, you're a fan of Bakersfield College, and you got to hope the players don't think this, but you're also at the point now where what can go wrong? You know, what can happen now? Are we, you know, when the game's on the line, are we going to be able to come out with a play that will win the game, or is it going to be one of those things where the game's on the line and we make the wrong play, and you know, a guy runs a kickback for a touchdown, there's a costly turnover, and unfortunately that's what's been happening. And then now you start getting that doubt creeps into your minds that when you're 0-6. And now, you know, even though you're playing teams that are not very good, I mean, let's face it, they played Citrus College last week, who was an 0-5 team, and Citrus beats them 24-14. And Citrus this week, they played, I think Mount Sac and only lost by like 42-14. So it wasn't like Citrus, you know, was able to ride the rally there. So I mean, it's Bakersfield College is basically reeling. I mean, we're talking, it's unprecedented. They've never been 0-6 before, and frankly, the team is struggling, and it's hard to fathom that they're going to be able to turn it around.
That's the voice of Jeff Evans. You're listening to the pregame show here on News Talk 1180 and the new 96.1 KERN. You're watching on Bakersfield.com. We're about 27 minutes away from kickoff on a Saturday night here at Bakersfield College. We are high atop the Dameron deck, as we always are pregame, and we call this game up here. You and I were sitting here talking, and through our discussions, we looked down and said, well, you said Vance. Never in all my years have I not seen the Renegades down on the main field warming up. They are out on the practice field. I noticed it when I drove up on the south side over here. All the Renegades out on the practice field. Do tell, Jeff Evans, who covers the Renegades.
I tell you what, it makes you think, okay, are they running some little wrinkles? They're doing something that maybe they don't want Moorpark to see them doing any pregame stuff. And
is Derek Carr taking snaps?
Yeah, like, maybe they've got 5 other all-pro players. You know, maybe there's other NFL guys in town. They're going to suit them up. You know, and
wow.
But I mean, really, I mean that's the only thing. Really, the gamesmanship. You know, Jeff Chudy likes to do a little bit of gamesmanship at times.
Just changing things up, maybe.
You know what? Maybe that's it. Maybe it's a superstition thing. You know, hey, we've been on the field and. You know what? We're going to be here on the field 60 minutes. I don't want to be on the field any 1 minute earlier than I have to, the way things are going. I don't think he's going to admit that, but maybe that's it.
All right, it's homecoming tonight. We're welcoming Moorpark in. Last year, over at Moorpark, what a game. In the art of full disclosure, I was not here. I was out of town. Francis Mayer and my partner Kirk Boyer called that game, but I was getting updates, and KB and Francis Mayer called one of the craziest games in the history of BC football, with BC pulling out a late second win. Tell us about last year's game.
Well, it was the wildest game I've seen in several years here, and it was a 50-47 Bakersfield win. Derek Vickers scoring his 5th touchdown of the game.
Crazy.
With about 1:20 to go that rallied Bakersfield from behind to win that game. Right before then, Moorpark had busted a long play to go ahead. It just went back and forth, and it was almost like. Neither team was like whichever one, all these haymakers landing each other. It was a fabulous game, though, as far as an excitement, to watch that. And Derek Vickers, and I believe it's the only time in Bakersfield College history a player scored 5 touchdowns in one game in that particular contest. And, again, it makes you wonder a little bit about Moorpark's offense is they don't have those type of weapons this year. They haven't scored those kind of points in any game this year, but they do average over 400 yards a game in offense. And Bakersfield right now ranks last in the league and by averaging about just over 300 yards of offense. So if they do get into a shootout kind of game, probably edge Moorpark because their offense probably is a little more potent than Bakersfield's offense. But again, who knows? I mean, Moorpark got 1 win all year themselves. And, so you just figure that, Bakersfield could just as easily win this game, but they could just as easily lose this game as well.
That's the voice of Jeff Evans from the Bakersfield, California. Let's talk very quickly about our Renegades. Specifically, let's talk about the defense. Joseph Hurtado having a great season. You and I last night at the Bakersfield, Californian studios before you went to call your high school game, and I was hosting the show. We talked about some of the bright spots, and there's two names that jump out on defense. Of course, Hurtado is one of them. Tell us about Joseph.
Well, the last 2 weeks he's had 5.5 sacks in 2 games, and now that's shot him right up toward the top of the conference in number of sacks. I think he had 1 sack all year, and now he's had 5.5 in 2 weeks. And so he's I think he's second in the league in sacks now. I think he's got 6.5 for the season. Nichols is
Jordan
the other
Nichols,
one. Jordan
right.
Nichols is having a really nice season, leads the team in tackles. Obviously the other defensive player of note is Dominic Frash, but Dominic pulled out a hamstring while making an interception 2 weeks ago, did not play last week. And you got to always wonder, it was the opposite leg. He had a hamstring injury in the summer when he went to one of those training, one of those camp deals in June, and that was still bothering him when they started practicing in August. Just about the time he gets healthy from that, he pulls the other hamstring 2 weeks ago. So I talked to him after the game last week very briefly. Very frustrating because he's out there, he wants to play. He's trying to get himself into position for a scholarship next year, and and it's hard to show your wares when you're not playing, and when you have an injury, then that might scare people off as well. He's got a lot of ability. I'm sure he's going to get something to play for in the future, but it's a shame that they don't have him out there because he's one of their best defensive players.
On the other side of the ball, the Renegades now are going into the third game with Dalton Gallis. Remember a few weeks ago it was the big secret. He popped out against Allen Hancock, and then last week had a pretty good game against Citrus. But tonight, third game in with Dalton Gallis. That seems to be the storyline for our offense. The running backs not having as productive of a year as we thought they may have. Offensive line still trying to put the pieces together. But it looks like, again, even though they were practicing on the practice field, our spotter had his binoculars out and said, nope, it's number 19 behind center.
Well, and the thing is, he made a touchdown play last week. He got flushed out of the pocket. He kind of got circled around. He was able to kind of keep the play alive, and then heaved the ball 45 yards in the air downfield. David Ross ran it down and wound up scoring on the play. I think it was a 74-yard touchdown play, and that's the kind of play that frankly, none of the other quarterbacks on Bakersfield's roster would have the ability to do that. They would have been sacked by the defense. Dalton's got enough quickness in his feet to elude, at least keep plays alive, and that's what and that really is the attraction. He can make things happen because of his quickness in his feet. The problem again is it's really difficult is that the line protection is not really there, so he's really facing pressure. And let's face it, they're jamming up 5, 6, more than that, like 8, 9 guys in the box to take the running game away, and they're forcing Bakersfield to throw. And they really aren't the type of team that's going to heave the ball downfield. That was just kind of a broken play that worked out for Bakersfield.
That is the voice of Jeff Evans. When we come back, we will hear the voice of our head coach, Jeff Chudy, and yesterday's interview with my partner, Kirk Boyer. We have some more time left here in our pregame show before kickoff. The Renegades of Bakersfield College hosting the Raiders of Moorpark here. We'll see if the Renegades can get off the snide and get us a win. We'll be back in a moment on Bakersfield.com, News Talk 1180, and the new 96.1 KER.